everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rugby with Pads. For you guys, it's been a week, unless you're listening to this on a binge. For me, it's been but a matter of hours. I'm looking to stash some of these up so we can get ahead of schedule. But today we are going to go straight into tier rankings for wide receivers. Now, why should you care about tiers? Hopefully I demonstrated in the last episode with our initial episode on tiers around quarterbacks. I think with wide receivers, it's maybe less important because it's very much a deeper class this year. You know, even some of the rookie wide receivers that are coming in are going to have a lot of impact, and we're not going to go through them all. There is almost too many to go through. But what I want to do is give you an idea of how to think about what wide receivers in this league. We're going to be thinking about it in a PPR format, and we're going to be thinking about how you construct your roster during your draft, because all of this is towards your draft. It is the next key milestone that you have, whether you're doing it late in July, early in September, late in August, whenever you're going to be doing it. These are not lessons from the mount, but these are skills and techniques that I think you can use to make your experience drafting better and hopefully improve your outlook for the season. Right, so we'll jump straight into it. Let's do a bit of a screen share and get into the tier maker. Right, let's get into this. So you'll notice here there is a lot of tiers. I think I've tried to keep it to a similar kind of level that we did with QBs, but we've got a lot more players to be dealing with, so we're going to have an interesting time of it. On my other screen, I've got my deep list here, but you're not going to be able to see that until I finalise it and produce it, probably in the second week of August, I think, is when I'll release it. I ranked over 50 players. We're not going to go through all 50 players because that would not be worth your time. And we're probably going to have a bit of a quicker pace than we had for the quarterbacks, because I think there is less differentiation between some of these tiers, and you'll probably see why. Because I think with wide receivers, there's such a range of outcomes game by game that there is so much more dependent on the quarterback. That's why I want to do the quarterback first, because they dictate a lot of the rate of play. I didn't want to do running backs because there's still a lot of flux in that position. So we're doing wide receivers sandwiched in the middle there. But I do think there is a lot of opportunity to find someone else if you don't hit the person you really, really, really want. So without further ado, you probably are buried the lead if you're watching this on YouTube, and hopefully some of you are. The top tier I've got here is full of two people alone, and both candidates who could go the 101 this year in PPR drafts. And they are, of course, your historic LSU monsters. You have Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. I think it goes without saying they are probably the two best options in the league, and will continue to be for years to come. Youth, talent, it's coming in abound, and you will have to pay up a first round pick. A top 3 pick. They're probably sandwiched between Christian McCaffrey or Austin Eckler, depending on what format you're in. They all going to have to pay up a lot for them. So what if I don't have the top 3 pick? Well, who's next? Who's available in my options? We've got our number 1 targets, and these are guys who I think will be available spattered throughout the first round between the likes of Travis Kelce and some of the running backs that we have already mentioned. And some of these names, I'm not going to labour the point, some of these names are going to be pretty obvious. Maybe less so Cooper Kupp, because he had a sneaky good season last year, but don't think people recognise it because the Rams were so terrible. But you've got your names like Cooper Kupp. We are going to put in Devontae Adams. We are going to put Tyreek Hill in there. Tyreek Hill is definitely the alpha in that team, and of course Stephon Diggs, who is normally seen towards the end of the first round. I don't think these guys have a different range of outcomes. I think you've got to question who will be, the guy who separates themselves from the pack here. I think if anything, this scale probably feels about right. I think Cooper Kupp has the highest floor, with Stephon Diggs having the lowest floor based on some questionable stuff happening in the off season. I think Devontae Adams is QB proof, hopefully, especially if he's going to get a NAF QB if Jimmy G is injured going into the season and has dropped. But I don't think that's going to happen. Now, I think this is where it starts getting interesting, and what we try and stick these in kind of 12 person blocks. you are getting more. You're probably going to get more production out of these two, but you're going to be paying up a huge amount. You're probably not going to get much difference in production for these four between Cooper Cup and Stephon Diggs. Yeah, in the first round, you're going to get a range of outcomes which you're going to be very happy with. And if you've chosen them over running back, it's just the way you're going to balance your team. I think the interesting thing about wide receivers is you have to pick more than one, unlike QBs where you normally have to pick one, maybe two in a super flex. But we'll go through that. And I'm going to go to my next set, and I'm going to start off with a name that might surprise you. Amon-Ra St. Brown, and we're going by PPR formats. Amon-Ra St. Brown has shown himself to be the wide receiver one in that team, despite being I think it was a 5th round pick, maybe a 4th round pick. Either way, he was a low round pick. There was 15 people picked ahead of him, but he has proven to be incredible and quarterback proof as well. He's been great for the last couple of seasons. He is really fantastic. So Amon-Ra St. Brown goes there, and his opportunity has gone up. Even though they've added Jahmyr Gibbs, is it Ben White the OC? I need to remember and find out my OCs. But Ben White the OC in there, probably not Ben White. Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson the OC over there in Detroit definitely schemes him up to get open, and he does get open. There is a level of talent there that is incredible. Another guy who's on this set and forget list, this QB1 range, is A.J. Brown. We're going to go through some names. We're going to do a couple at a time. Another NFC East compatriot in CD Lamb. I think he is fantastic quality. I'm not sure if he's in this list, but I would put Jalen Waddle here in this list as well. I think he's fantastic. I think we've just got mainly the top guys. Anyone watching on YouTube is probably shouting and screaming, saying, "He's there! He's there! He's there!" I can't see him. But then again, I couldn't necessarily pick him out of a lineup here. And there are a couple of names that a couple of faces I'm not too familiar with as well. So apologies for that, guys. But normally you see them on with a helmet, don't you? We've got Devonta Smith in this group as well. I can spot him there. I don't think there's too much difference between him and AJ Brown. He's the two, but I think opportunity in PPR means he is kicking around in that range. I think DK Metcalf is, by all accounts, a stud. Probably should be the number one targets, but I think based on the fact that he has got other people like Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba around him, mean that I'm just reducing it ever so slightly. And we're going to have the perennial favourite, Keenan Allen, in the mix here. So outside of the omission of Jalen Waddle here, again, who I can't pick out a lineup, but I'm going to very angry with myself if I've missed him. Is that him? I don't think that's him. We're wearing the right colour, but just take it for granted there. These guys are going to be a set and forget guys, and probably be the top end of your wide receiver one. Doesn't mean it's a huge drop off from there. And you'll see why, because there are a couple of names that I want to put in this sneaky league winner. And I'm going to start with a new Bears wide receiver, DJ Moore. And I am all in on DJ Moore. I don't know what it is about this season, but I've got a very good feeling that he will be very good. Opportunities there. He is going to be the stud guy. And I think he will provide you with a good opportunity to win your league. And that's what you really want out of this tier. The guys who aren't considered the wide receiver ones, the guys you aren't going to pay up high amounts for, you can probably get him in the 4th or 5th potentially, and we'll do a draft after this to go and see if that's true. But I think you could really get a lot out of DJ Moore there. And there's going to be another guy here. I'm not sure if I can see him here. But in my sneaky league winners as well, I'll have to do this by process of elimination later. But Calvin Ridley is in my list there as well. I think he could be a sneaky league winner if all things fall right for him. And I talked last week about how I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be the upper end of his tier. I think Calvin Ridley, if he bounces back to the form he hasn't got much tread on the track. He is immensely talented. I think he will be a fantastic player. Right, we're going to move through and we're going to look at the guys who are outside of that top 12, but I think still have massive amount of wide receiver one upside. So again, the reason we're doing this here is because we're seeing the difference in opportunity and in prospective outcome here. And some of these guys are going to be guys who definitely could reach into these on any given week. And this is based on the overall season, because that's what you draft for. You draft for the whole season. You don't draft for week one necessarily. So I'm putting in Chris Olave to start with, because I think he is, he's got that. They always say that second year breakouts happen. He was a rookie sensation. Same with Garrett Wilson. I think he has massive upside, and people have a lot higher on him than I am. But I'm, with new quarterback play, things can happen. Aaron Rodgers really likes Alan Lazard for some reason. We'll see how that goes. And this has been really hard, but I'm going to put Debo Samuels in there. He had a bad season last year, but I think the upside for him is the running volume. And if he gets into the end zone as a runner as well, that gives him a huge amount of upside and probably the best 1-2 punch here. And he's only a 1-2 punch. He's got talent to be a wide receiver one anywhere else, but he is definitely the two in that system. We've got T Higgins again. I'm really hoping I've got the right guy here. I think I have. Right. We'll come back in a second with the next set of guys that we want to take a look at. We'll split them up a little bit, but tune in on the other side. Right, let's get back into the mix, shall we? Where did we leave off? We left off at the kind of tail end of wide receiver one upside, and I think this team, this group is, yeah, it's a solid group, and I think if you see these first 12, you would say, yes, they're wide receiver ones, stretching from obviously Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, who are going to be those 1-2. Not going to be much difference between them, I think, at the end of the year. Mainly based on quarterback play and what your preference is there. I think opportunity is maybe bigger for Justin Jefferson, but they're going to be behind in more games, slower pace of play at Bengals. Yeah, it's an interesting one, but you could probably tier those guys out. But the idea behind this is within these tiers, you don't need to. And I think the wide receiver one upside is probably that where there is the biggest difference between the next step of guys. And the next step of guys still good. They're still good players. And because you need to have more than likely multiple wide receivers on your team, you are not going to be unhappy with getting any of these guys. So let's get into this. And this is going to be the biggest group of guys because I don't think there's a huge amount of difference between a lot of these guys. And I'm going to start out with someone who I think, probably fits between these two. And it's going to be Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is fantastic. I think he's going to be great this year. My problem with him is quarterback play. Sam Howell is unproven, 5th round, second-year player. We've only seen 2 games of him. Yes, there were 2 really good games, but he's shaky. And there's a question whether he can support 2 fantastic wide receivers in him and Jahan Dotson as well. So I think this maybe speaks to more Jahan Dotson having questionable play, and we'll get onto that in a second. Amari Cooper, I think is that being shown in a Raiders uniform? No, either way, but Amari Cooper is definitely in that wide two spot. Again, do we trust Deshaun Watson to be what he was? Maybe. I think he's dependable. I think he might have a little bit of upside and maybe at the top level of this tier, but I still think he's in the tier with the guys that we're going to talk about here. I'm going to put Chris Godwin in the mix here. Chris Godwin is a PPR, so you could definitely put Mike Evans in here, and I think he definitely has potentially more upside. But he's going to be a volume play. I don't think Baker's going to throw it deep. I don't think he's got that in him anymore. There's questions about the offensive line. They're going to be behind in games, so they are going to have to throw it. Whether he's going to get the quality of passes be confirmed, but I think he's going to get the volume of passes for sure. We're going to put in Mike Williams in here as well. He's dependable not because he's actually dependable, because he is probably going to get injured at some point or another. But I think he is definitely kind of, if you look at the season-long outcome, you're drafting them alongside these guys. You're not unhappy if he is your wide receiver 2 in your mix up here. And again, I think probably speak the same for Tyler Lockett. He's the 1B to DK Metcalf's 1A, but there's a volume question here. Who is going to be hyper targeted? Although he gets more open than pretty much anyone else. I think he was 2nd in open rating last year. DK Metcalf is definitely the GOAT here. He's the beast. He is the #1 target. He is the big guy that you are definitely looking for. We'll skip around a little bit because DeAndre Hopkins is staring me in the face here. And you know what? I'm going to put him in stashes. Now, stashes are guys who could have spike outcomes, and we know that it's probably going to be Colt McCoy coming in. He was okay with Colt McCoy. Lie. He's been dropped. I'm talking absolute rubbish here. He's a stash depending on where he ends up. I think he could end up as high as here, but for now he is a stash depending on where he ends up. This will be an evolution. I completely forgot he was cut. I think he was cut upon request. Yeah, let's go with that. I think he was cut upon request. So yeah, he is definitely in my stashes. You could probably put stashes a bit lower, but for now, I'm just going to keep stashes over here, and we'll decide where we think these guys are going to be moving forwards. Who else have we got? I think I've got Deontay Johnson, who again I cannot pick out of a lineup here. I've just seen Calvin Ridley. There he is. So we'll put him back in there. Deontay Johnson, is that him? One of these guys is him, but we I'll decide who it is later. I might have to look up what he looks like. But depending on wide receiver two, he is definitely in the mix there. And I'm going to go with a guy who I think is going to be good, Christian Watson. Um, he showed that he is the number one option over there in Green Bay. It's going to be questionable with Love, but I think out of all of the quote unquote new guys, I think he's going to be a better quarterback than some of the other quarterbacks that and make it better for his receivers as well. And finally, we have Drake London. I'm sure that is Drake London. Hopefully, very hopefully it is. Drake London, I think, is going to be a fantastic prospect. And he showed it last year in flashes. Whether Desmond Ridder has the ability to target him as often as we want, there are some volume concerns there. They are going to be playing a lot of run, but I think he is the number one option. And they're not bringing anyone else in. I thought they might be in on DeAndre Hopkins, but it doesn't look like they are. There's been no murmurs there. It probably looks like Hopkins is going to go either to the Titans. He might have already gone by the time this comes out. I'm recording this effectively 10 days early. So we'll have to see. I might have to write a retraction in the notes. But yeah, I think Drake London is going to be an interesting play for this year. So in the dependable section, we've got Terry McLaurin, Murray Cooper, Chris Godwin. We have Mike Williams, Tyler Lockett, Christian Watson, and Drake London. There's a lot of names here, and it's really weird seeing them without masks or their numbers or jerseys. This is going on instinct here. Right, we're going to move through to some guys who I think still very talented, and this is really hard. This is why this tier break is so difficult. After the top 12, the next 10 guys look great, and you could make an argument for them being number ones, and this is why I think it's still favourable unless you get a really top guy within these top two tiers. You can wait on wide receiver and still be very happy because the volume is there across the board. But there are guys with questions around whether they are going to get the volume themselves, and I think that starts with this guy, Mike Evans. Mike Evans is fantastic. He has had 9,000-yard seasons consecutively. He's great. I think it's going to come to an end with Baker unless they really try and force the issue. Brandon Ayuk, who I did see there a minute ago, he's in that mix as well. Again, based on quarterback play, I do not rate the quarterback situation over in 49ers land. I love Brock Purdy, don't get me wrong. I do not like Trey Lance. I think it's going to be difficult. Brandon Cooks, I think, because CeeDee Lamb is going to demand all the targets, and it's a new offense for him. It's a new offense for everyone under Mike McCarthy. I think there's going to be questions there. And likewise, I'm going to put in the pair of Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. I do not see much difference between these two guys. I think Courtland Sutton is potentially a better possession receiver. Jerry Jeudy is potentially better at getting open and yeah, but I don't see much difference in that. And because of the shaky quarterback play, I still think they're going to be above really shaky quarterback play, but I think still there's volume concerns, and I can't differentiate the two of them. Who else have we got in this tier? We have Mr. Gabriel Davis, who I like a lot. I think he could be great, and I think depending on what happens with Stephon Diggs, who is the lower end of my my scheme at the top here, I think Gabe Davis could get a decent amount of play. And Jahan Dotson, again, it's because there's not much to play between him and Terry. Terry being a fifth-year wide receiver, Jahan Dotson being a second-year wide receiver. I think probably Terry gets the edge here, but there's not much between them really. If I'm being brutally honest, but I think based on the fact that they have a second-year quarterback who hasn't had a huge amount of proven success, that's why he's there. And I think maybe to end this run, maybe we might go out and move some people around. Michael Thomas, I think with Chris Olave, having been more dependable over the last year, and Michael Thomas playing only a handful of games, it's going to be very hard for me to recommend to someone that you go for him. Right, now we get into the guys who we're going to slug through a little bit. We're going to put Treylon Burks in shaky QB play. Just don't know what's going to happen there. We missed out on Michael Pittman. I think Michael Pittman is a dependable wide receiver too, so we're going to put him back up there. We've got Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk, I think, has proven that he can be a dependable wide receiver too in the past, but I think with the starting of Calvin Ridley, I think he is going to move down to spot starts. He's going to have his day occasionally, but I don't think it's going to be particularly often. Now, someone who originally, when writing this, I had down as spot starts, I'm actually going to move up considerably. And because it's opened up so well for him, he has wide receiver one upside. It is Marquise Hollywood Brown. Famous, I think he's a cousin with nephew of Antonio Brown or something like that. But yeah, I think he's actually got wide receiver one upside. And because this list is so big, sometimes you just have to pick up players who you missed out on earlier. But I think he has a lot of talent. I think he will be good. He will be good. Right, moving through his list, let's see the names I know. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is only good for a spot start. With Devontae Parker getting a bit of money as well, I think that's where I'm gonna put him. You know what? I'm going to put this player because I think it's Jalen Waddle in the wide receiver one upside. I don't recognise him, but he's wearing blue. Hopefully that's not Devontae Parker. We are going to take a look at who else have we got list that I recognise. Tyler Boyd. It hasn't even made my list here. Rashad, is that Rashad Bateman? I think it might be. Either way, some of the Ravens receivers I think can only be spot starts, and I'm not going to be going after them in any way, shape, or form. Kadarius Toney as well. He hasn't got shaky QB play, but he is a spot start. So maybe we actually move spot starts up above shaky QB play, and everything else. I'm not particularly happy with having as one of my leading guys. I think that's George Pickens. I'm not particularly concerned about him. I'm going to put a spot start for Darnell Mooney, for Tyler Boyd. Is that Jacoby Myers? I think he's down in shaky QB play. He's behind Devontae Adams. I can't really trust him. This must be Deontay Johnson. If he's not, Deontay Johnson, I'm sorry if I've got you wrong here, but you are going to be as part of my dependable wide receiver 2 group. I think a lot of people see it could be Deontay Johnson's season. We'll have to see that. Alan Lazard, I'm putting a spot start only. It depends if he becomes available to Aaron Rodgers early. And finally, we are going to land with Adam Thielen. So that's our list. It's a huge list. As you can see, this is why I can't differentiate between any of these guys in volume concerns. Anyone from Mike Evans to Michael Thomas based on situation. Shaky QB player, I don't differentiate between Treylon Burks and Adam Thielen, other than I think one's an athletic freak and he should be better, but his situation just doesn't prove it. This is why you do it in this way. And maybe there's a couple more stashes to have in there, and maybe I've actually moved stashes down for now because I want a bit more certainty. Or maybe it's even higher because you're maybe drafting your first 2. So again, think about how you rate your tiers inside your tiers as well. You might have people who might have a particular outcome or particular situation that you like to group together, but if those situations don't balance across your team, that's when you might run into some difficulty. Right, what we'll do is we'll come back on the other side. We'll have this tier open on one side, and we'll do like we did last time. We'll do a random draft of a 12-man league and just see how we use these tiers in action. Right, folks, welcome back, and we are going to roll straight in with the split screen. We are going to do a faux draft, completely randomized from the start using Sleeper. You all know the drill here. By now, we are going to be focusing on where wide receivers are going. And I'm going to try and do this a little bit quicker than we did last time because we're going to see a couple more drafts over the next couple of weeks. Now, I have been given randomly the number 9 slot, and already the LSU 2 have gone in the first couple, Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp. So you know what? I'm going to go with what I probably should do in this position and look to go for someone who I think is going to be really, really good from my number 1 targets. And I am going to go with my man, Stephon Diggs. I'm favouring Stephon Diggs quite a lot, and I'm seeing him in quite a lot of drafts, mainly because I seem to be falling towards the back of drafts. Did really well last year. And he just seems to be falling to me quite a lot. I'm probably going to continue that trend. Now I'm going to go a little bit 0 RB on this one. So we're going to look at how wide receivers fall. Obviously, CD Lamb, Devontae Adams, and AJ Brown going into that second tier. So our first 2 tiers are wiped out. So what I want to do is, with this setup being two wide receivers, being PPR, I want two wide receivers that I can set and forget. And I think there is no better complement to Stephon Diggs than my man, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think if I go into this draft with, some guys who are really at the top of their game, who I've got two top 12 wide receivers, I am very happy. So at pick 204, I'm going for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Straight away after that, we see a little bit more of a run on guys. We see our first quarterback go in Patrick Mahomes. Garrett Wilson's gone. Jalen Waddle. We've got Devontae Smith. So more and more of this mix are going away from us. And we're going back into the group where we're thinking, right, well, who's left? And do I need these players? Now, this might be a bit of a risky play, and I might try and do it because this is a PPR format. I've also got a flex that I need to fill out as well. So I'm maybe going to fill out that flex position as well. And obviously we want a bit of depth to our team. So I might continue and go three wide receivers. Team 7 has already done it with Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson, and DK Metcalf. I've got Stephon Diggs. I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. T. Higgins and DK Metcalf have just gone. So is there anyone left in that tier? I don't think there is, and looking through it, I'm maybe dropping down a tier to guys like Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, who I do think will be fantastic, and I think will be my guys going into this season. But there is one name out there left in this tier who I think is going to be a PPR machine, and that is, of course, Keenan Allen. He is right at the end of my set and forget tier, and that's what I want. You know what? I'm going to go into this league. This is more like a best ball. I'm going to go into this with the thought that I don't want to look at my wide receivers again, so I'm going to go with Keenan Allen at the 309. So that leaves me with Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Keenan Allen. I think at this point I need to be thinking about other positions because this is an interesting play because there are definitely players who like. There are styles like of going into drafts like this where you focus on one position and get that positional advantage. I feel like me and Team 7 have of this one. There are other teams who have gone for three running backs off the dome. Yeah, Team 6 have got a lovely set. They've got Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, and Tony Pollard. Team 5, Eckler, Jacobs, and maybe a bit of a drop to ETN there. But I'm going to go and maybe stack on some other positions and not go quite 0RB. And I'm going to pick out someone who I think could be pretty good. Jahmyr Gibbs in the 4th, and that's probably a bit deeper than I normally get him. But you know what? Every time you go for a run on a position, other positions drop down a little bit. Now we're talking about wide receivers here. Let's see who else has gone in that mix. Since I picked Keenan Allen, Chris Olave went, so we're taking away our QB1, wide receiver 1 upside guys. Deebo Samuel in that chain. Calvin Ridley is one of my sneaky league winners. DeAndre Hopkins is a stash. They obviously think that he's going to land somewhere good. Terry McLaurin is obviously valued a bit higher than I do, but I think he is at the top of that wide receiver 2 tier. Then we see Christian Watson, Drake London, DJ Moore. So that's pretty much everyone out of this tier gone. T. Higgins went earlier as well. So the only one left out of this tier is, I think, Marquise Hollywood Brown. Is he available there? Yeah, he's available a bit lower there. And, there's a bit of risk there, but I think I'm going to veer away from there. And I'm actually going to do a bit of zig and zag. And I'm actually going to think, there's no one here from the running back room that I really like. So I'm going to pick up a position that I think does need attention. And I'm going to pick up another one of my guys, quote unquote. I'm going to pick up Justin Fields at this position. I think he's just fallen in ADP in the 5th round. It feels nice, feels right. So let's go with that. Shortly after, Jerry Jeudy, who I don't trust, but a lot of people think he's going to be better, comes out. Mike Williams, great pick. I think he's a fantastic player. And then I'm left with a bit of a decision. So, staring in front of me, I feel like, do I need to go for a running back? I could wait till late and just go pick up some guys with some volume, pick up a lot of guys. Do I look to enhance my position at wide receiver? And I'm thinking neither is really a particularly favourable option here. And I do have a glaring omission at tight end. I'm not sure if I like Kyle Pitts. I think he is definitely the number 2 option there over in Falcons world. I think I'm going to push it a little bit more, and I am going to have to just pick up someone who I think will have opportunity for volume. And it's not someone who I particularly like, but James Conner. And we'll go into the next episode and we'll look at running backs in a bit more detail. So I won't spend too much time. Marquise Brown and goes finishing off the W1 upside shortly after me. Jordan Addison goes particularly early. We didn't talk about some of the rookies, but you know what? There were so many players to think about. It's difficult to do a full tier list. This is a very much a highlight. I don't think Jordan Addison is a bad pick. It would have been for me, seeing as I've got Keenan Allen, but he's a good pick regardless. Christian Kirk went, Deontay Johnson. So we're seeing these dependable wide receiver twos go out. The big omission here is Tyler Lockett has not gone yet. And I'm thinking, well, I need a bit of depth. And there's not really a running back here that jumps out at me. And I think I'm going to almost abandon that running back position. Kyle Pitts does sit nicely here, but you know what? I think Tyler Lockett, as being a big tier break between those guys and the volume concerns, I can go into the season with 4 wide receivers and then not think about it. So Tyler Lockett is going to be my pick in the. Do I want to make it? Yeah, I'm going to make Tyler Lockett my pick at the 709 here. Then get Kyle Pitts, AJ Dillon, Jahan Dotson, Mike Evans going, Quentin Johnson. I mixed up Quentin Johnson and Jordan Addison. I don't think. You know what? There's something that's. I think maybe I'm getting deja vu. Oh, maybe it was from last year, but I do believe maybe they had something pre-draft that went between those two guys. Maybe I'm misconstruing. Maybe it's another season. Jackson Smith and Jigba goes, paired with Tyler Lockett there. Would have been nice if you're looking to gain all of the volume there behind DK Metcalf, but I'm going to abandon wide receiver until maybe a late throwaway. And I think there is someone here that I quite like, and we'll go into in the tight end episode, but I'm going to go with the easy pick. ADP has fallen. Pat Fryermuth, I'm taking you at the 804. Last episode, I took Darren Waller and Evan Ingram 2 or 3 rounds apart. I can't remember what it was, but there was an obvious stack there. I haven't got any obvious stacks with regards to 2 quarterbacks here, and maybe I'm thinking about later on. Where is he? Maybe I'm thinking a little bit about Darnell Mooney, who has a chance to come good behind. I forgot what his name is now. DJ Moore. I would have loved to have picked up DJ Moore, but I think I chose Keenan Allen instead and lost out to him. But there's definitely some players who I could look to stack with Justin Fields, and it elevates their value a bit later on. But I think I need for now to make sure I'm picking up a couple more running backs, and there are going to be guys who aren't going to go back to me. And Devon A.K.A. is a bit of a crutch for me. I think he's going to be good this season, and it's looking like a bit of a shaky running back room, but let's see if we can bolster it with a bit of volume. There's no one here that jumps out to me here. We've had a load of guys who are spot start players start to go now, so it does seem like the drop off rate after the 7th round is pretty extreme, because we're getting people like Elijah Moore and Gabe Davis, who I think is Gabe Davis better than advertised, but people with volume concerns. Any of the Baltimore players are going to start going soon as well. Juju Smith-Schuster, who's unproven in that system, and it's a bit of a shaky system at best. But I'm going to be looking for a bit of value at the running back. And someone who's probably not going to come back to me. He's again a crutch I use because I think he was great as a late round pickup last year. He had a great end of season. Jarrett McKinnon, get on my team. Jamal Williams, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham, and Alan Lazard all go in the 10th until it comes back to me. Jacoby Myers, who again I think is only good for spot starts here. And that leaves me with, I've already talked about him, Darnell Mooney. He is going to be my number 5 wide receiver. I'm going to go with a single tight end, maybe see if there's someone valuable in the last round. I'm still left with the same options here. So I'm going to pick up someone who has been a bit of a favourite of the off season. Maybe I won't. This is basically a free pick, so I'm going to pick up Kendra Miller because I'm still not convinced of my running back room. So Kendra Miller, again, I feel like I'm drafting the same players week in, week out, but hopefully you'll like what I made up here. So I started out with Stephon Diggs, went back to back with great picks with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and this is just following the tier system. I got the last of the tier break with Keenan Allen and my flex. Then went away for a little bit, got Tyler Lockett a bit later on. These wide receivers, I think this is a wide receiver room that anyone would kill for. And Darnell Mooney as a throwaway right at the end as being a bit of a stack with Justin Fields. They might have spot weeks. If DJ Moore goes down, his opportunity rises massively. The running back room is a bit suspect, but I've got a massive positional advantage, I think, in the wide receiver and QB room. So I guess, guys, do you like this squad? Let me know in the comments. And that's going to be a lot today, guys. Thank you so much for listening, watching, however you're consuming this. Always appreciate your time. It takes me a little while to put these together, so I know it takes a little while to listen to them as well. Some of our episodes recently have gone an hour and a half long, so hopefully this one episode won't be that long. And you know what, we'll maybe have an easier time of it when we get to tight ends in a couple of weeks. But next week we'll continue on with this series. We'll do running backs coming up next, tight ends the week afterwards, and then we'll go into mock draft mania, which will probably be a mega episode. And I'm going to get a bit of collaboration from some of our recent guests on that show. As always, you can follow at Rugby with Pads on all the socials. You can support the pod with a membership. I probably put it somewhere in this episode if you want to have a listen through. There's still a competition going for memberships as well to get yourself some free merch, but you can support the pod from as little as £1. But just listening and supporting, commenting, liking, sharing, subscribing, all of that supports the pod as well. But there is some cool merch going around. We've got these t-shirts in lots of different colors. We've got some hoodies and some sweatshirts and some other stuff that's going to be coming out at the start of the season. If you're interested, we maybe get an Etsy store going as well, but that's rugbywithpads.com. I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you all on the virtual gridiron.